Welcome back to One-on-One Sports. I'm now joined by two of the hardest-hitting contestants on our program, Christine Williams and the redheaded wonder himself, Andy Harris. Now, guys, there's been quite a bit of controversy this season in particular about the safety of players, especially the Islanders brawl that broke out just a few weeks ago. Now, Christine, is safety an issue in the NHL?
Well, recently there have been some reports that came out about Bob Probert, who died last July at 45. He was one of the biggest enforcers in the NHL. He was in like 250 fights, but
it's quite a lot.
It is quite a lot, but he knew what he was getting into, and so does every other player in the NHL. When they sign that contract, they know it's a physical sport. They know that it's a tough profession, but they get well compensated for it in the money that they get, and it's really a lure for people. They want to see the fights. It's part of the history of hockey. It's a deterrent for other players to stay away from the cheap shots. You need the fights.
I absolutely agree. No, you cannot have hockey without fights. I'm sorry. You're going to lose a ton of your fan base, and the NHL really right now cannot spare any fans. After the lockout, it has been way down in popularity. Like you said, he was an enforcer. He knew it was coming. I'm sorry. You can't be an enforcer, get in a fight a game, take multiple punches to the face and not expect some long-term damage. He knew what was happening.
And if you're really concerned about athletes' safety in any sport, then you got to get rid of the sport of boxing altogether.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Andy, switching gears a little bit, the Pittsburgh Penguins somehow been staying alive in this playoff race despite losing Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. Now, much longer can they go without Sidney Crosby? Is he going to come back this season?
Well, they've been playing under 500 without him. They're 12-9-4, so 13 losses since Sidney Crosby's been out of the lineup since January 5th when he was concussed. He's the best player in the sport, pains me to say it. He's the best player in the sport. They need him back by the playoffs and to be 100% when he comes back if they're going to have any chance at the Stanley Cup.
Agreed, they need Sidney Crosby back because without Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby, they're not going to be. They've been fighting their way through, and they've tried to make some trades to get some players, but right now they don't have it as much as they'd like to think they can ride the success of Marc-Andre Fleury and Jordan Staal through the playoffs. It's just not going to happen. He's the best player in the NHL. Like it or not, it was having a Hart Trophy-winning season, and
was leading the league in goals. Yeah,
it's gone.
Absolutely.
All right, now with the teams, the trade deadline passed recently. Christine, who are your winners and losers?
My winners have to be the Boston Bruins. They made a ton of deals. They lost a few players, but what they lost, they gained back.
Absolutely.
And the players that they gained were just as good, if not better. The biggest trade that we heard about was Thomas Cabriolet from the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's a defenseman that added to their power play. They are ready to make a push all the way through the playoffs. However, the losers have to be the Florida Panthers. They made a ton of trades also, but they gained nothing. They gained absolutely nothing. They traded away all of their names, their big names, if they had any to begin with Frolic, Salak, Dvorak. All of those guys are gone, and they got players like Jack Skill. Who knows who that is?
I don't.
I haven't heard of him.
I mean, I'll be honest, I don't.
I'll go with losers first. The New York Rangers. They were 7th in the East as of today, only 3 points ahead of the 9th place team. They're clinging onto a playoff spot, and they did nothing. They missed out on Dallas Stars center Brad Richards. They really needed him to solidify themselves as a playoff team. The team who I thought did the best at the deadline was, we just talked about him, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Brought in Alex Kovalev and James Neal, a couple of winners. That kind of softens the blow losing Crosby.
That's the only thing.
Well, I know, but he's good. He's kind of having an off year, but he was on a very bad team in Ottawa. This is Kovalev we're talking about. And if Crosby comes back, that's like a midseason addition.
Absolutely. I got to agree with you on this one. I like you thinking outside the box. Sorry, Christine. Time to step away once again, but on the other side of this commercial break, Eric will sit down with our MLB experts to discuss their early impressions of spring training. Stay around.